This video does a quick run through of the features of Litera NTD, and those features are numbering, tables of contents, and Doc ID. Litera NTD is an add-in to Microsoft Word, so once installed, you'll find an NTD ribbon in the Word ribbon appear. And within the NTD ribbon, there's a grouping for each of the features. There's a numbering grouping, table of contents grouping, and a Doc ID grouping. Let's first take a look at the numbering feature. In the numbering ribbon, it will look like this until a numbering scheme has been added to your document. We have a test document on the screen. You can launch the numbering task pane by either clicking Add or Modify a numbering scheme, or you can click the Launch Numbering button in the corner of the grouping. Then the Litera numbering task pane opens on the right. And the top part of the pane may look empty because there's currently not a numbering scheme imported into the current active document. At the bottom, you have the default schemes that come out of the box with numbering. And in the center, you have the tool strip. Just reviewing the quick tool strip options, you can use the navigation arrows to find and locate numbering within the active document. This restart button with your cursor in a paragraph will restart the numbering in the current list. With the cursor in a paragraph, the continue numbering button will continue numbering from the previous list. The green arrows with your cursor in a paragraph, or if you have multiple paragraphs selected, will let you promote or demote numbering in the selected paragraphs. This button removes numbering from a paragraph but retains the shape of the paragraph. The X removes numbering from the paragraph and applies the default style, usually body text configured by your administrator. The green circle arrows will refresh the numbering scheme if you've made changes. This button lets you import the styles, gives you the ability to import numbering schemes into the active document from another document. This button, it lets you show applied styles within a numbering scheme level. And the last button is to edit your word styles. It lets you edit styles using the native style editor. So in order to import, assign numbers to a particular document, you need to import the numbering scheme into the document. If you also wanted to create any personal numbering schemes and save those for use later, we recommend you create a personal folder to store those personal schemes. And that can easily be done by right-clicking anywhere in the tool strip and choose Add New Personal Folder. So my numbering schemes lets you create that folder, and then if I had created any personal numbering schemes, I could organize them and store them down there for future use. But to import a numbering scheme into the current document, first take a look at the default schemes that may be out of the box. In addition, your administrator could have enterprise schemes or schemes just imported for your company available in this section. So you could choose from those as well if those are available. To see what a scheme looks like, just click once on it, and at the top, it gives you a preview of what each level of that scheme will look like. I'll click a few others. But for this video, I'm going to use General Outline 1. So to import this into the document, I'm going to right-click on it and choose Insert into Document. Your other option is to insert it into the document and update the font of the numbering to match the font in the normal style of the document. If for some reason the fonts aren't matching, you can choose that option. But I'm going to insert into the document. It inserts the numbering scheme into the document. And now what we have in our task pane, it shows the active document, and that outline style has now been imported into the document. Also notice that now the numbering grouping on the NTD ribbon looks different and has more options. First, it shows General Outline 1 is the scheme that we've imported into this document. It also has level number buttons for every level in this particular scheme, so we can easily apply those levels with a click of a mouse. In addition to that, it repeats some of the same tool strip buttons that we previewed just a minute ago. Now let's see how we would apply levels of the numbering scheme to text in our document. And there are many ways you can do that. First, I'm going to click inside my first paragraph to get a numbering level. So I could use my number level indicators here. If I just click that, it then applies that to the current paragraph. If I click in the next paragraph, another way is to drag it into the actual document text. That also applies it. Another way is using the ribbon. So the grouping has level indicators here. These are buttons that I can also click, and it applies that level to the paragraph. Or you could use shortcut keys. The shortcut keys are Control and Alt on the keyboard, and then a 1 on the keyboard to apply level 1, a 2 to apply level 2, a Control Alt 3 to apply level 3, etc. So using the keyboard, I'm going to continue to do that. I'm going to press Control Alt 2, and it gives me level 2. I'm going to do it again. For purposes of this video, this particular document only has 2 levels. So I'll go through the document and apply to all my paragraphs, and that's it. So far, we've imported a numbering scheme into the active document and then applied that throughout the different levels of the document. Next, let's talk about inserting a table of contents now that all of our headings have been marked with numbering. The table of contents grouping is located here. I'm going to close my NTD numbering ribbon, and you can, again, this particular grouping will look different whether or not there is an active table of contents in the document or not. So it's smaller now because we don't have a table of contents. So to activate the table of contents task pane, I can click the task pane launcher from the corner of this grouping. The task pane on the right then shows the standard table of contents levels that come out of the box. It can also show enterprise schemes that may have been imported by an administrator. To quickly insert a table of contents into the document, in my situation here, I'd like to have my table of contents at the top. You can do that a few different ways. You can choose the scheme from the task pane that you want to insert into the document and right-click on it and choose where you want to insert it. Insert it at the top, at your cursor position, or at the end of the document. Likewise, you can, from the NTD ribbon in the table of contents grouping, choose the level that you want to use, the style, or the TOC scheme, and then from the insert menu, choose the location. I want to insert it at the top of the document or at the bottom of the document. I'm going to choose to insert it at the top of the document. And then it goes through and it pulls the 2 levels that I have tagged throughout my document and creates a quick table of contents. Now let's go over how to stamp a document with a doc ID. The doc ID feature has its own grouping in the NTD ribbon. It's located here, and it shows it has an insert button. It shows the default format that is currently set. Out of the box, it will say default format, but your administrator could have created a format and set a different one as a default, so that may be showing. It shows the default location that is set for your doc ID, and then it has a remove doc ID. So you can enable to suppress it whenever you print, and it may or may not have settings available to you. Sometimes settings are only available to administrators. First, I'm going to start by closing my table of contents pane. And just quickly, if I want to insert a doc ID, this particular document is stored in NetDocs, but it does integrate with several document management systems and with a document stored in a file share. So if a document is stored in a file share, you can stamp the document with the path and folder location as well as the document name or anything that you want. In this case, if you take a look at the insert ribbon, you can choose a location. So you can insert a doc ID wherever your cursor is sitting or just in a current section in the default location, which again, the default location is shown in the format area, or you can pick a different location altogether and then choose where you want your doc ID to go. For my case, I want to choose every page as my location, and then it should just insert automatically. Yes. And it inserted the doc ID in the footer of every page. So the first page was center because that footer was set that way because of my table of contents, but now I have a doc ID in the footer of every document. I can also remove it with this remove button if I want to, and that includes these 3 features of Litera NTD.